Is there a God then, Neil deGrasse Tyson? Are we about to have breaking news?
I don't know.
Is there a God?
Okay, so what I will tell you is that there are a lot of unknowns in the universe, but just because there are unknowns does not mean there's a deity in the unknown. If you're going to assign a deity to that which... It doesn't mean there isn't, that's correct.
So you're more of an open mind about this, right?
Everyone should. If the unknown is the unknown. But the track record of people saying God is behind this, and then you add a little science to it and you find out, no, we can completely explain it and control it, then the history of that exercise is so rich with science discovering the unknowns that were previously ascribed to deity, like lightning bolts and weather systems. There was Poseidon, there was Zeus, just look at the history of this. I'm not given reason to say, we're gonna find something, God is gonna be at the center of that, and there'll be no science to apply. I'm gonna look for the science first, because that's how the history of this exercise has unfolded.
Now, I wanna play you a clip. This is you talking to Joe Rogan about vegans.
Want to save animals. I've never seen anyone say save the leeches.
No one cares about bugs.
Save the ticks. And you can ask, if you're really into animals and don't want to kill them, if you heard that ticks were endangered, would you start a movement to protect ticks? Would you do that? And if you would, more power to you. But I'm thinking you're not.
They're not. It's the little guys they don't care about. I've had this debate with vegans. I had one last week. I have it every month. And I always point out, most vegans I know munch away on almonds and avocados, and they turn a blind eye to the fact that this causes the mass murder of billions of bees, mainly in California. They don't want to have that debate because they don't care about the little guys, Neil.
My only reaction there is that comment was addressing only vegans who are vegans because they don't want to kill animals.
Yes, no, I agree.
Other reasons to be vegan.
Of course.
Right, for health or the environment.
No, I'm talking specifically
the
ones who run into steakhouses playing sounds of cows being slaughtered. They're the ones that munch avocados and almonds, invariably.
Yeah, and by the way, and they are dining upon the reproductive organs of plants. That's kind of weird. And I imagine if a plant-based alien visited Earth, they would freak out when they saw vegetarians.
Yes.
Because the vegetarians would be eating them, right? And vegetarians target not only the reproductive organs, the nuts, the berries, the flowers, but they also target the infant versions of it, with baby lettuce, baby carrots, baby.
Oh my God.
This would terrify a plant-based alien. So that's just a cosmic perspective on that.
No,
diet.
You have given me a whole new line of attack. The flower babies. I love it. This is fantastic. I find these.
That's dangerous. If it's dangerous to feed you more lines of attack, because I don't know what you're going to do with it.
No, but I always like to take these things to their debates to their logical end, right? I mean, and it seems to me when it suits them, they care about the bigger animals, the cuddly ones. But when it comes to the little guys, they're not interested. Now, I want to talk about
the furry ones especially.
Something even more iconic, actually, than God or vegans, and it's your moustache, which has become one of the world's most famous moustaches. And here's extraordinary. There's a whole website that's been set up called deGrasse Tyson's Moustache. And we did a bit of research ourselves, a bit of scientific research. And there's a moustache montage that we have here, which is quite extraordinary. It turns out almost every brilliant scientist has had a magnificent tash. Nikola Tesla, the inventor extraordinaire, great tash. Louis de Broglie, discovered the wave-like nature of all matter, great tash. Hans Geiger, famous for the Geiger counter. Robert H. Goddard built the first liquid-fueled rocket. And, of course, Albert Einstein, probably the one nearest to your own. You've become the modern-day godfather of science moustaches, but very much running in a sort of a great, long, historic list of great tashes.
I never thought about it. This mustache, I've never shaved it in my life. Yes, I've trimmed it, but ever since I could grow a mustache, I've had a mustache. So it's just part of my life. And even it was kind of out of style a few years ago. And I was a little bit, I did get rid of my mutton chop sideburns. I figured, okay, that's from 1978. I could lose those. But I did keep the mustache. But if I were to vote among those mustaches, I would say, we remember Einstein as this wire-haired, gray, big bushy eyebrows. But he was a dashing young man. You see him in a tuxedo. Yes, look at that mustache. That's like a Magnum PI mustache right there.
If you could, final question, Neil. If you could have dinner tonight with any scientist in the history of recorded mankind, who would it be?
Yeah, it would be, no question about it, Isaac Newton. But I think about that all the time, and I'd say, Isaac, come for dinner. And he'd look out the window, and he'd see these things moving. He said, what are those? And I said, well, they're horse-drawn carriages without a horse. He said, well, how do they move? Well, they use gasoline. What's gasoline? Oh, it's fossil fuels. What's fossil fuels? And after 5 minutes of this, I say, go back to where you came from.
Also, unfortunately, your answer...
There's so much that has happened since then.
Well, your answer is completely...
I don't know if I have the patience.
Well, you killed my theory also, because Isaac Newton famously was clean-shaven.
Oh, well, Newton, we see him with these big locks of curls, but I think that was actually a wig on top of much shorter hair. And the statue of him in Cambridge, in Trinity Church in Cambridge, you see him with short hair.
Wow.
So I was so disappointed when I heard of that, yeah.
Neil, I could honestly interview you every single day and it would never get boring. You've got a fantastic way of bringing this stuff to life. To Infinity and Beyond, a journey of cosmic discovery. Neil deGrasse Tyson and Lindsay Walker. It's a #1 New York Times bestseller, as all your books are. It's a fantastic reading. Great to have you back on Uncensored. Thank you.
There's a quote from Neil deGrasse Tyson that says, as the area of our knowledge grows, so too does the perimeter of our ignorance. I mean, the more humanity discovers galaxies, atoms, DNA, quantum physics, the more we realize how much we don't understand. And that's important, ladies and gentlemen. Some people think knowledge replaces God. And I see the opposite. The deeper I look into reality, the more I see design, order, structure. In other words, the universe isn't chaos. It runs on laws. Yeah, it's intelligible. You see, it's precise. And that doesn't scream accident to me. No, that whispers intention. But here's where it gets even serious. Christianity isn't built on we can't explain it, so God did it. My faith doesn't stand on gaps in science. It stands on a person, Jesus Christ. And Jesus didn't come as an abstract idea. He stepped into history, ladies and gentlemen. He made bold, dangerous claims. He didn't just talk about God. He claimed equality with God. He forgave sins. He accepted worship. He said things that, if untrue, would make him either insane or evil. You see, in other words, there is no safe middle ground where he's just a nice moral teacher. Good teachers don't claim to be eternal, to be the eternal I am. No, they don't say they existed before Abraham. They don't claim authority over life and death unless it's true. You see? So, I'm left with a choice, ladies and gentlemen. Either he was lying or he was delusional. Either he was telling the truth. You see? And when I look at history, I see something powerful. Jesus was crucified publicly. his followers ran away in fear. Then suddenly, those same followers were boldly proclaiming that he rose from the dead, even when it costed them their very lives, ladies and gentlemen. And people don't willingly suffer or die for something they know it's a lie. You see, the resurrection is the turning point for me. If Jesus rose from the dead, then everything he said about himself is validated. And if he didn't, Christianity collapses. It's that simple, ladies and gentlemen. But here's what even convinces me even deeper: transformation. I have seen what happens when someone truly encounters Jesus. Pride breaks, bitterness softens, addictions lose their grip. That kind of heart change isn't produced by philosophy alone. It's produced by relationship. And I love learning. I love thinking deeply. I don't turn my brain off for faith. If anything, I use it even more. I question, I study, and the more that I dig in, the more solid Jesus becomes. Christianity isn't afraid of investigations, ladies and gentlemen. It's not. And ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, I believe Jesus is God, not because it's comforting, but because of the evidence, historical, logical, and experimental points there. You see? And if he truly walked out of that tomb, then he isn't just another religious voice, he is the very truth. And if that is true, then following him isn't blind faith. It's the most rational decision I could ever make. Amen and amen. Well, folks, if you enjoyed this one, be sure to click on the next. You will definitely enjoy it even more.